Okay, John, so what's the plan today? What are we doing up here in the marshes?
Yeah, so we're on Doxey Marshes, which is on the outskirts of Stafford, I guess. You've got the town centre over there somewhere, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
You've got the motorway and the railway over there. It's quite an old patch of land, and at the moment we're in the depth of winter, so it's all quite dead and desolate. Anyway, yeah, so we're here because I have a new project in mind.
What's that?
I'm partial to the odd crazy schemes with my noise instruments, my various home-built creators of drone and doom and clatter and whine. JJ, that's my guide dog. I don't know if you can see him, I don't know whether he's in trouble or not. But he's covered in swamp slime at the moment.
Yeah, is this like Mermaid Pool? I didn't go up to Mermaid Pool with you, but I saw little snippets of that. Is it a similar vibe that you get up here? Is it?
Yeah. So we had access to an abandoned library for a little while, and I did some noisy drone sets in basically what is quite an atmospheric old building. And quite famously, somebody, I think it was you actually, you took a picture, didn't you, of us when we were performing a drone set.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was a ghostly figure appear in the background, which actually went global and appeared in every major newspaper website and whatnot.
Spain, I think.
And a load of people saying that was fake, and it wasn't. It might have been a trick of the light, who knows? But yeah, so drone set in a library with a ghost. Maybe some interesting stories attached to that. I've done an experimental noise set on the edge of Mermaid Pool, which is up near Leek somewhere, where there's an old folk tale concerning, surprise, surprise, a mermaid who will drag men to their watery doom. So I've kind of got an interest in things like that. I've always had an interest in local history and folklore, and Stafford's got its fair share of it, and I guess probably the advantage of living in a smaller town is it's easier to get a grasp on like the local myths rather than being in a big city where there's probably thousands and thousands and loads of haunted building tales and stuff like that. You know, Stafford's got its handful of folk tales and history, and I've always found that fascinating.
People don't really talk about it though. There's not really a great oral history in Stafford as far as I'm aware.
There's not a great
oral history. Is not that many people you can speak to.
No, there isn't. I guess we're a commuter town, aren't we? And we haven't really got that much of an arts and heritage and history scene, because
there'll be some old biddy somewhere that you can dig out. That's what we need to do at some point.
Perhaps so.
What do you know about the marshes?
The marshes, I think some wealthy landowner donated them to. It's like a nature reserve now, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're sat in a bird hide where people would normally just bird watch. I guess. I guess. I'm interested in what else might be out here, because on one of our errands, me and you spent some time in the local library and were amazed at the size of the local folklore history section.
Yeah.
We spent some time browsing through there, and I found allusion to a tale about a boggart. A boggart being... There's two versions of a boggart, really. There's the Harry Potter version, where it's a kind of mischievous little imp that will turn your milk sour and make your dog lame and not really do much more than that. And then there's some boggart tales that are associated with environments like this, where they've perhaps got a bit more of a sinister tone. And
they're shapeshifters, aren't they? That's as I understand it. It's a shape-shifting spirit.
Yeah.
Presence.
And been known to, or supposedly, drag people away, kidnap small children, and generally be rather unpleasant.
Probably like the Scottish Kelpie, which people think is an explanation for some of the Loch Ness phenomena.
Or whatnot. So yeah, there's a folk song of a couple of verses that alluded to a boggart that lives in these marshes. And there's some other historical stuff relating to these marshes. Stafford has a saint who is Saint Bertolin. And you will, if you kind of Google or Wikipedia the story of St. Bertolin, there's several stories that kicks around, but the one that always stuck in my mind is that he was the son of a Mercian prince, a bit of a spoiled brat, and his dad was getting fed up with his mischievous ways. And hello, JJ, have you spotted something? So yeah, where was I? His dad sent him across to Ireland to basically grow up, learn some responsibilities, become a man, and then come back when he was ready to behave like a prince. according to the tale, he didn't really live up to that. He went over there, had his mischievous ways with some of the local wenches, and got one pregnant, and decided that he needed to come home, running home to Daddy, because he got a woman pregnant. So he came home. JJ, you right? He was travelling back home to this area, across some marshes, which may well have been these marshes. And his pregnant bride-to-be, went into labour, and he basically rushed to the nearest settlement to find a midwife. And by the time he'd got back to his bride-to-be, she'd been savaged and killed by what we presume to be wolves, and both the mother and the infant were killed. And he became a hermit in the locality, and devoted his life to God, and became who we now know as St Bertolin. So that's one of the stories of the life of St Bertolin that basically relates to Stafford, to the death of his bride on marshland on the way. And this is a historical piece of land. There are historic footpaths that link surrounding villages with Stafford that used to cross along these.
Well, as I understand, the whole of Stafford used to be like this. The house where I used to live on the Newport Road was built on a floating sort of plinth, because Stafford is essentially a bog.
Yeah, I think the whole of Stafford is sinking at a speed rate of a couple of centimetres a decade or something like that.
I think that I read the name comes from Strathford, that's where it comes from, so it was a place where you crossed, and as I understand, it was St Chad who established the town, and he was some sort of religious extremist of the day that had a strange little religious colony in the middle of, on an island in the middle of this bogland, basically. So
so I think it's basically a crossing point of a generally watery and flooded area, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it does relate to being able, you need to cross it with a staff. So that's the history of the place. If you walk across these marshes, if you ever get the chance, you'll notice sort of lines of willow trees that look like they're very, very old, and they look like they're being hacked back to a stump repeatedly, and I think that's called pollarding. And I think the lines of willows used to be sort of pollarded along footpaths, so when they were flooded you could still find the line of the path and whatnot. So for eons people have walked these paths, so maybe St Bertolin was one of those people. Maybe he's not far from where we're sitting now. Maybe there were wolves here, maybe there were other creatures here.
Well, probably back in the day it would have been a bit of a scary thing to do, because traditionally boglands and marshlands were sort of the interface between the one world and the next world, weren't they? That's as I understand it.
That's an interesting point to make as well, and that perhaps brings a little bit more insight into the Boggart tales. Maybe the Boggarts a lot of the times relate to these watery areas because of that.
Because people used to throw sacrifices into bogs, didn't they? They did.
They take platforms out into watery bodies like the one that we're pretty much in the middle of, and kind of offer physical goods like money and jewelry and stuff like that, and also sacrifices. So this place may well be steeped with a very dark history. So back to the project. We've waffled on a little bit, but the project that I've got is that I will assemble some of my arsenal of battery powered instruments. We will come out to one of these bird hides, and I will create my usual sort of sonic atmospheres that I like to do. Hopefully it will suit the environment, and we'll get somebody, I think I'll probably too busy twiddling knobs and stuff like that, but we'll get somebody to help recite the folktale that we found in the books in the library, and just create a piece of art that reflects the local folklore and this environment and the history, and basically so it's a piece of art, really, a piece of sound art and a piece of history.
Just does the environment affect how the sound actually comes out sounding, especially when you're in an area like this?
This can be quite interesting, because I mean it's fairly cold space, but when I'm using battery powered instruments, if I'm just doing it in the open air, the sound can get quite lost. It can be affected by the wind and whatnot. Here I should be able to get a good amount of resonance out of these concrete walls. I should be able to record it to a reasonably high quality as well. So the idea is that we'll release it on Bandcamp or something like that once we've thought of a suitable name for it. So that's the plan. Somewhere here in the next couple of weeks, when we can catch the weather right and I can find somebody to help lump all the equipment over here, have to choose our moment so we don't upset keen bird watchers or whatnot.
Or people having a Sly one in the bird shelter.
Yeah. We thought this would be the perfect place for that sort of activity, and there is a surprising lack of condom wrappers and evidence of any of that.
It is very
activity.
romantic.
Yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps up this. So yeah, thank you for pointing the camera at me, Chris, and we'll reconvene at another time to record some sounds.
Be exciting. Looking forward to it, mate.
Chapel.
Yeah, so here we are,
Yeah.
as we were chatting about the other day.
What's it say about the walls? Excavated foundation stones have been restored upon the exact plan of the chapel. So it says the cross, St Bertland's cross, was 5 feet beneath the ground, so I presume the foundation stones would have been at a certain depth. Perhaps archaeologically slightly unusual, maybe not to leave something where it was. But yeah, so we were talking about the story on the marshes, about St Bertland and what might or might not happen to him, and it became a religious service. This is meant to be a very early chapel of his, and that's meant to be his worship cross, or a replica of it. I think the original is still in the ground being restored. Yeah, that's just more sort of evidence to back up the legend, so to speak. Can't say exactly what elements of it are true. This exists, you can't refute the fact that we have a founding saint, he did worship here, there is physical evidence of it. So that's just a cog in the story, I guess, of what might have happened on Doxey Marshes hundreds of years ago. I guess I have one footstep for us in this documentary project-y, soundy, arty piecey that we're going to be trying to do in when it's not raining, for example. Lovely Stafford day that we have here. Wet dog. Smells like a wet dog. Yeah.
JJ.
Don't think there's an awful lot to add here. I don't know if this was his final resting place. I think there was an important coffin buried under here somewhere. But I think he's meant to have retreated up to Ilam near Leek. And I think there's still a shrine to him up there. So maybe that's a journey. Okay, here we are. This is our trip out onto the marshes to record the documentary performance recital type part of the film. So who do we have here? We have JJ, the pup. We have smile for the cameras, everybody. We have a good friend Nikki, good friend Chris.
I am Bruce.
And Katie.
Hello.
So that is the motley crew we've assembled today. And in passing, Chris. Stokes tangling me up a bit. In passing, Chris, you mentioned a strange experience that you had up on the Doxey Road.
Yeah, I was walking to Steve's and a car stopped and it was full of Hare Krishna style monks in their orange regalia with their bindis. Regalia with their bindis on and lots of what I assumed to be offerings in the car, and they were asking me the way to Doxey Marshes, which is pretty strange.
Which I guess links into something we've talked about in the past. Is like the marshes are often seen as water is just seen as a gateway between
water and marshlands in particular, and bogs.
Yeah.
And on land bodies of water like that, yeah.
Which is why there's often been sort of, bog bodies have been seen to be sacrifices, and there's been places where things have been cast into the water as offerings and stuff like that.
That's it.
So you suspect that these people might have been actually doing some sort of ceremony out here?
Yeah, all I know is I just know bits and bobs. I just know that in certain of the Asian subcontinent religions, they have a tradition about, I think it's called the Nagas, the water spirits.
Oh yeah.
And
sort of even in sort of English folklore, there's like sprites and things like that.
Yeah, but is it a genius loci? That's the category of spirit that is a spirit related to the land and the well-being of the land and the people that live off it are closely related to the well-being of the genius loci. I think that's the word. And in the Buddhist tradition, they have something called the Naga, and I understand that there's a particular group of Buddhists that thought the Loch Ness Monster was a bad-tempered Naga that needed appeasing, and that's why some of them bought...
But quite a shy one as well.
That's why some of them went and bought Aleister Crowley, the famous English magician's former home on the banks of Loch Ness, to work at appeasing the spirit there. But yeah,
maybe we ought to go up and do a gig there. That sounds like pretty cool.
Oh, it's a very cool spot. Yeah, but you even look back to things like the Lady in the Lake and the sword being cast into the lake. It's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a theme there. There's a theme. This is my favourite tree on the marshes, I think.
Oh, really? It is a pretty cool tree.
Yeah. So anyway, we're walking to a bird hide, believe it or not, which we think would keep us nice and sheltered and dry. It might actually have some nice reverb as well. So say cheerio for now, and we'll see you after I've settled.
still. Fear see its eyes and feel its breath, and on the wind the scent of death. The hinterlands hide many tombs, as the Boggart lives there still. Lead quickly and speak ye not. Hide this tale, it's best forgot. Tell it loud in Boggart's rise, to live and breathe through will. Be wary thee, in passing by the bogs of Doxey. Souls have been lost, and high the cost that we are paying still. Fear see its eyes and feel its breath, and on the wind the scent of death. The hinterlands hide many tombs, as the Boggart lives there still. Lead quickly and speak ye not. Hide this tale, it's best forgot. Tell it loud in Boggart's rise, to live and breathe through will. 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 so this is the road trip portion of our little experiment. We've kidnapped a driver. It's Wayne, he's over there. That's the back of Wayne's head. Yeah, so we bribed him with something, I'm not quite sure what yet. We're on the way up to a place called Kidsgrove, which is up this romantic road known as the M6. We've also got Chris there. Say hello, Chris.
How's it going?
And down here we've got our own Boggart, JJ. Hello, JJ. So yeah, we're going up to Kidsgrove, which is the home of the Hare Castle Tunnel, which has its own Kidsgrove legend, the Kidsgrove Boggart. We'll tell you a little bit more when we get there. So yeah, say hello, Wayne.
Hello, Wayne.
Yeah, that is Wayne. That's our kidnapped driver for the day, who's driven all the way up to the northern reaches of Staffordshire to this canal. That is the Hare Castle fire and rescue barge, which I think is just in case anything untoward, non-Boggart related, happens in that tunnel over there. Chris is on hand. I think he's got a book of some description. What's the book called?
Staffordshire Folk Tales.
Yeah, I've got a similar book which has got the tale in it as well. So yeah, we're here in Kidsgrove at Hare Castle Tunnel North entrance because there is a Boggart tale associated with this place. Do you want to tell us a bit more, Chris?
Yeah, just let me find the spot.
There's another tunnel just around the corner there, and that's the Brindley Tunnel because that was the name of the engineer. If I step back here a little bit, you can just see the edges of the Brindley Tunnel just around there, the end of that canal. And this is the Telford Tunnel, built by Thomas Telford.
Okay, so
45 minutes for a boat to get through, which is perhaps why some nefarious things might happen while you're in the tunnel. Go on.
yeah, okay, so it says, unlike other Boggarts, Kit's crew bucket was once human and her current form is in fact her ghost. The stories generally tell of a young woman who was travelling down the canal but was the only female amongst a rough and cruel band of men. It was close to Kidsgrove that after some miles of leers and threats the men overcame the girl, attempted to have their wicked way with her and then killed her. Then, having dumped her decapitated body in the Hare Castle tunnels, they continued on their journey. From that time on, people reported seeing a headless woman moving through the mist at the tunnel entrance. Others spoke of hearing screams echoing out of the tunnel. No one has been harmed by Kit Crew Bucket, but her appearance and screams are understood to be warnings. Whenever there was a collision or disaster on that stretch of canal, the Kidsgrove Boggart was seen beforehand. And so, unnerving as it might have been to see a headless woman in the mist, or hear her blood-curdling screams echoing from the darkness of the tunnel, the bargemen did not avoid the tunnel out of fear of the bug, but more in obedience to her warnings. So, if she doesn't appear when you approach the Hare Castle tunnels and all seems quiet, you know that your journey underwater will be trouble-free. However, if she does make her presence known, then you go on your way with care.
There you go.
So that's the Kidsgrove Boggart.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it bears some resemblance to another tale near Rugeley, isn't it? There's another.
The Bloody Steps, isn't it?
The Bloody Steps of Rugeley has some similar traits. Yeah, there's other lore around here which may have been intermingled with the Boggart tale, but this is the place anyway. So there's more than one Boggart in Staffordshire. We found reference to 4 or 5 Boggart tales, including ours. Yeah, so from the Hare Castle Tunnel, nice peaceful spot apart from the trains that hurtle past every now and then. Over and out. Right, so I've asked Chris and Katie to come up here, grab the camera, because I've just loaded up the recording that we did in the bird hide. It sounds really, really good actually. So you can kind of hear
That's the bull roarer. You can hear that's the wind one that you were cycling through. Drone synths come in. My voice has come out really well. So this is me reciting the
hinterlands hide many tombs.
That's me reciting the poem and whatnot. So it's a really good. All I've done is sort of maximise and whatnot to get it up to a volume. But the reason I actually switched the camera on is you get to the end when we're sort of winding down, so the drone synths go a bit quieter and whatnot. And there's something I know the gear we were using. There was the drone chest. There was the second bent butter machine. There was the two wind one bull roarer things that we were doing, and there was another synth that was adding some sort of textures there. And there's some sounds here which I frankly don't recognise. So that's my drone synth tuned out. Yeah.
That is so weird.
None of the stuff that I got can do that. No. I mean, some of this stuff will, but none of the stuff I took out of the marshes. And listen here. The classy seats.
Whoa. That's just too freaky for words.
That's just sort of a bit creepy, really. I don't know quite what it is.
It sounds like
crackly.
an animal, doesn't it?
It kind of does. It's kind of crackly, but it's not like a microphone would do, anything like that. We're inside, so it shouldn't be wind unless JJ is farting into the microphone. Right. I'll just fire up some of my posh gadgety stuff. Get rid of the bass.
Is pretty.
I mean, JJ was in the hive, wasn't he? But
He
I've
was,
never heard JJ make a noise like that.
No.
You weren't hungry. I don't think. But
No, it's creepy as fuck.
how weird is that?
Very creepy, yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd do that. You know, we were doing a tale about a boggart, which isn't a very nice creature, and there's actually something on the recording that sounds like not a very nice creature. So yeah, make of that what you will. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I've just wondered if you'd seen the news.
No. Why? Who's blown something up?
There's just lots of stories in the local newspapers and the local media, social media, and all that about someone going missing up on the marshes when we were there. It's like a woman and a child were last seen walking up there. Police are concerned for their safety and all that.
What? As in yesterday when we did the recording?
Yeah, that's when around the same time.
So
I didn't see anything. Did you?
Well, no. So we're in a bird hide doing that recording, and somebody went missing pretty much at the same time.
Yeah, around that time of day, they said it was she was last seen cutting across the marshes with a pram at about 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Shit. Yeah, it's just a bit coincidental, isn't it? Look, mate, I'm about to go into town. Are you around? Are you going into town?
Yeah, I'm popping into Wes's to get a trim, so
You
probably in the next hour or so.
You're vain, aren't you? Look, yeah, I was going to. I'll meet you at Wesley's. We'll talk about it a bit further.
Okay, that's fine. See you there in about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah, all right, I'll get the bus. See you in a bit.
Cool. Ta-ra.
What strange, hairy creature is this that is lurking before the camera? It's a bit sort of weird, really. It's got a mouth. Holy crap. Ah! It's Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. I'm in focus now. Right, yeah, so this is we've come to talk about what we talked about earlier, I guess. We've met down at the barber shop of Mr. Wesley, Master Barber of Stafford. Man of many skills and talents, and also owns a Night Rider car. A bit of a fan of the Hoff, but he's got better hair. Anyway, no joking. We're down here because got a Skype call from Chris this morning, following on from our session last night when I was editing the recordings from the marshes, where we heard some a little bit weird sounds and whatnot. And then Chris Skyped me this morning saying that at the same time we did this recording on the marshes, a woman and child have supposedly gone missing. What, you see it on the local news or what?
Yeah, it was on the local news on the radio, and they're taxi on the way to work. So.
Right, and what? They just yesterday they went missing. I said we'd meet down here because we were both literally on our way out, both scruffy, both needed tidying up. So seems like the situation is that we did a sound recording out in the marshes, which was really cool. Went back, listened to some recording, and there was some weird noises, and now somebody's missing on the marshes, and Wes is looking cynical.
Oh, you really believe it?
Well, you haven't heard the recordings. It's kind of, we just went out there to do a gig, basically, like my guerrilla gigs, like I so often do. Chris helped me. He was waving a wind wand. And I recited this folk tale about something called a Boggart, and there's meant to be a Boggart that lives on the marshes. And
Boggarts in here.
There is at the moment. I think we're trimming one. So we heard weird noises, and now somebody's gone missing, and because it was a little bit unsettling to hear those sounds, it's obviously got us thinking a little bit that the two things happened at the same time on the marshes. So a bit of a, I don't know.
So this sound, it wasn't, you didn't hear it when you were actually there, it was when you got back home?
Didn't notice it, no, because I think we were probably concentrating on, he was waving his wand, and I was twiddling with buttons and knobs and in a musical instrument sense. So no, I didn't notice anything there. You said you didn't notice anything there. The others didn't. We just had a nice afternoon, recorded the sound, packed up, and came home. And it was only when I was editing it to upload on the internet that I noticed something that perhaps wasn't meant to be there.
Such a weird little sound that was as well.
What did it sound like then?
Sort of like a growl or a guttural sound. I can't place it. It was really apparent. You could hear it, but we never heard it.
Sounds like what your dog would sound like if you had a really, really bad stomach upset.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't a bird.
Yeah, and none of the instruments that I took out would make that sort of sound. Oh yeah, Wes has just glanced at the back. I'll just move over there, see if I can zoom in. See that little creature over there? That's JJ's girlfriend, that is. Isn't she cute? Anyway, distraction. So yeah.
Well, why don't you go, when you go back up there and record it again, so you get the sound? Same sound.
Yeah, I'm up for that. I think that's probably the best idea. Just repeat it and see if we get the same thing.
I don't think you will then.
Either that or work out
Mr. Cynical Barber. You know everything, don't you?
Well, I don't know.
In all seriousness,
one thing and then you hear another thing. It's like, what?
I guess that would be the scientific thing to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You repeat an experiment, don't you? If you get some results that are unexpected, then you do it again and see whether you get the same results or not.
We'll do it, and then I don't know. That happens again. I'll come up with you on the third time. Then I might believe you.
I might take you up on that.
Oh,
So are you up for that?
Yeah, I'm up for that.
I'll see if I can get the rest of the gang together and we'll cart all the crap back out there again, and hopefully don't hear anything untoward.
you guys have too much time on your hands.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. And on that note, let's pack up. How are you feeling after yesterday?
I'm feeling all right. A little bit apprehensive about what's going to happen next, but
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. So, I mean, we didn't imagine it. It was weird, wasn't it?
Very weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So, bad smells. It was kind of not quite rotten eggs, but I don't know. I can't quite describe. It's not just like a straight rotten egg smell, but it was. I guess it's
Like something burning as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could kind of get that on boggy marshland, but it was definitely weird, and I heard some stuff as well. More of what we heard on the first recording, really.
Really fetid and creepy.
Yeah, I've had a look at the second recording. There's more of what was on the first recording, basically.
Really?
Yeah. Quite a lot more. Actually, so I'll play that the next time I see you. But
Can you make out what it is? Does it sound like a bird? Does it sound like a? What does it sound like?
It sounds like nothing I have ever heard, mate. It's just weird, but it's got me thinking that that woman and child are still. Like, there's been no news about them having turned up or anything like that, and that's playing on my mind because we've done a recital of a folklore about a boggart, which is sort of known for sort of stealing up with people, kind of this dark supernaturally type creature, and it strikes me that, I mean, we've talked about before some of the books that we've read, the Nick Redfern book and whatnot. It's talked about sort of tulpas. And I didn't know whether you thought what's going on might be something like that. We've done this recital about this boggart, this old tale, which may not have been given any sort of time for decades. We've gone out and we've done something quite ritualistic, and we've done this folk tale. I mean, I feel a bit stupid saying it, but could we have actually sort of lent something power by doing what we were doing?
I don't know. It's certainly possible, isn't it? That there might be something latent in the.
You're a bit more of a believer in this sort of stuff than I am, but it's just weird, isn't it?
It's very weird, very strange, but it's certainly possible that somehow through the sound waves that you were producing that day, maybe you activated or lent power to something that was lying latent there in the water or in the bogs. Who knows what's lying under the mud there? There might be bog bodies, there might be offerings, there might be all sorts of strange and weird and wonderful things lying latent in there. So.
You're not really making me feel any better. Well, we're kind of like lying awake, sort of thinking about it, and if it is indeed the case that by doing what we've done, we've woken something up, or however you want to describe it. It strikes me that the tale that we've told was obviously, it's quite a dark one. It's obviously meant to, I guess, scare kids away from walking on the marshes on their own, just in case something happens. But if we conjured something up that fits that image, if we were to do another sort of sound experiment, ritual type thing, where we paint a different picture of the boggart. I think we talked right at the beginning of when we were starting out making this so-called art project that there's two types of boggart. There's the sinister one, which I hate to think that we might just have called into being. Then there's the I think I called it the Harry Potter version. Yeah. Right, if we were to go out and do it again, and basically try to do a ritual for the Harry Potter Boggart rather than the child stealing Boggart, whether that might be able to influence it, change what we've done, maybe disarm it in some way.
You mean appeal to the more benevolent side of the myth, yeah?
Yeah.
I think we should go and give it a go. What can we lose? Nothing.
Well, I've got Kate here, and she's got this really interesting book on folklore. And right, where is it? Oh, here we go. So is this really weird? Can you still hear me? I'm kind of trying to read a book at the same time.
Yeah.
There are many stories of benevolent boggarts helping farmers to thresh their corn and get in the harvest. In one story, the farmer used to reward his otherworldly assistant with a jug of cream, but when the farmer died and his son took over the farm, the new farmer's wife gave it skimmed milk instead. This so infuriated the boggart that it took to stealing chickens and hens, making the cream go sour and banging pots and kettles together all night long. It suggests that, you know, boggarts can actually be sort of relatively friendly and helpful and working alongside man and stuff like that. What if I was to basically write a new rhyme poem type thing along that basis, and we'll go out and we'll perform another set?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Let's give it a go. Give it a try.
At this point, we've got nothing to lose, have we?
No, nothing to lose.
All right. So as soon as we can, I'll text Nikki and see whether she's free to go out for another recording. We'll get the gear out there as soon as we can.
Yeah, just give me a message when you need me. Be down there.
All right. Well, cheers for listening to my gibberish, or maybe not gibberish, but
well, we'll see. Only time will tell, right?
Yeah, we'll give it a go, mate. Cheers.
Nice one. See you later.
So this is our third trip out to the marshes, and we've come back because we're a little bit unsettled, quite frankly. We've had some discussions. The first one seemed to go okay, though we heard those strange noises on the recording when we got back. The second one was just unsettling, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's definitely something going on.
There's a lot of stuff we can't explain, and given the stuff that we've talked about, we've recited that folklore poem, and the best solution that we can come up with is that by reciting that old poem, that we might have actually lent some life to something along the lines of a tulpa or a thought form, basically something by ritual we might have lent it some power. And whatever this thing is, if there is something out there, it's not very nice. So we've had a talk about it, and the reason that we've come back out here is that we don't like the thought that we might have lent something power. We don't understand it, but if on that principle we recited a set of words and brought something into being, maybe we could do the opposite. Like Boggart folklore, it's a bit of a funny one. Some Boggarts are mean-spirited, likely to kidnap children, which is perhaps what's worrying us a little bit. Whereas there's another version of the Boggart in folklore, which is can be quite a helpful being, quite mischievous. We read one story in particular that a Boggart would help a farmer at harvest time to get the harvest in, as long as the farmer gave him a jug of cream at the end of it. And it was sort of like, I guess, man and, for want of a better word, fairy working together. So what we've done, we're back out, we've set up the game. We're going to repeat what we did before, but I've written a new poem which basically talks about this Boggart that might be a helpful and friendly creature, and that maybe by performing that it won't be as nasty as it was last time. So that's the reason that we're here. The whole gang here that came out the first one. So Katie, JJ, who doesn't look very happy to be here. We got Nikki behind the camera. We'll see.
Someone's coming up. Someone's coming up.
Settle down, JJ.
Oh, they've gone.
So yeah, do you want to pause it? I'll get set up and then we'll get
harvest with more than enough. Remember the romance we have with this land, and the Boggart will happily lend you his hand. Times can be hard in the Doxey lands, grim and grey too with many demands, but there is magic and plenty just out of sight, and the Boggart comes roaming when its time is right. For a little reward the Boggart loves to aid. Bless your endeavours and labours save. Do not run away, do not fear this sprite. It will join you and help you, it's not here to fight. Remember the cream that the Boggart likes so much. Remember the harvest with more than enough. Remember the romance we have with this land, and the Boggart will happily lend you his hand. Remember the romance we have with this land, and the Boggart will happily lend you his hand. And the Boggart will happily lend you his hand.
Time or two. Sunshine.
Yeah, that's good.
Can smell. That smell. Right, so here it finds me out on the marshes once more. First thing I ought to say really is that we're all breathing a bit of a sigh of relief, apart from JJ, because he doesn't really know what's going on. Apparently this woman and child were never really missing. It's just that's just gone quiet. So when I looked into it, they turned up. They were never missing. They went to stay with a friend. So it's just, you know, there's nothing to worry about. Just then I guess puts and the group now thinking, right, did we imagine it? Was there something out there? Did we hear something unusual? We certainly think we did, but I don't know. We're basically asking a bunch of questions now. So this whole Doxey Marsh is the Boggart. I guess it's subject to interpretation. You know, the whole St. Bertling thing, something bad happened out, and you know, there might be some bad juju out here. maybe time will tell. But for the moment, we just did 3 sound recordings, the first of which was not too untoward, the second of which disturbed us. And him, he barked, he wasn't too happy, and then the third one seemed a lot more pleasant, which I guess we undertook as a potential dispelling, now whether there was any purpose to that. But whatever comes to pass, got 3 really good field recordings out here, learnt a lot about the county, about the origins, the history of the marshes, a few interesting folklore things, boggarts, or bogs, or shucks, or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, I guess I'm out here to wrap things up. That's the end of the project for now. So I just want to say thanks for the people who helped me do it, in particular Chris. Nikki came and looked a load of equipment around, as did Katie. Wayne drove us up to Kids Grove, so thank you, Wayne. Wes expressed his views in the barbershop. JJ behaved mostly. And I guess if anybody's watching this, thank you for taking an interest. This is the beautiful Doxey Marshes, and I'm Johnny Smoke, over and out.